I've been buying so much car stuff that I forgot that I like cameras. I bought a new lens though. Look at that. Does it look all blurry in the background? Up in the camera gear. What's going on, folks? Eddie here. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Today, I want to give you folks a bit of an update on what's been going on in my life to do with the 124, all things cars related to Pistons and Petrol. Last time we did anything, we were looking at the 124, naturally looking at it, staring at it, hating it, same thing. I need to get this project finished because I need it out of my system so we can move on to doing the QV swap, which is obviously the more interesting swap, but this chapter of the 1.4 needs to be finished for me. I want to get it done and over with. One of the things that John can't stand about me is that when I get something stuck in my head, I can't let it go. The problem we're running into at this point now is essentially just MultiAir won't switch phases. We've tried a couple different MultiAir bricks. The cam crank relation thing is ancillary. That's not really a big deal. We know how to work around that. But the MultiAir not opening is an issue. What MultiAir not opening means is MultiAir physically is not allowing the valves to open completely. Now, this could be back down to an oiling issue perhaps. John thinks it might be the head gasket that's on the car. The head gasket that's in the vehicle right now is a Biposto head gasket. They look to be identical to the MultiAir ones. All the ports are the same, but who knows. The other thing that'd be blocking oil could be the head studs. Now, there might be some oil passages running through the one part of the head, really not sure, but at this point, it's just throwing guesses. The ultimate way to deal with this is just to not have to deal with MultiAir. And with the timelines for this project and how long this is taking, that's the route we've decided to go. I had an idea about 5 years ago, and I thought it would fix the ultimate issue with these cars. That issue being MultiAir. It was an idea, and let's back up a bit. The MultiAir 1.4 engine, the ones that are in the 500s and the 124s here in North America, when Fiat engineered those engines, it's not as if they created a whole new engine. The MultiAir 1.4 is based on the TJet. If you go back into the built engine series, you're gonna see at one point the 124's block is being compared to the Fiat 500's block. And while they're basically the same, the Fiat 124 block is essentially just a TJet block. That type of description should probably be dropped because ultimately it's just a fire engine block. Not a fire engine, but the technology, a fire engine. So essentially the blocks between the TJet and the MultiAir are the same, but it goes a little further than that. The rods, pistons, rings, the lower halves of the cylinder heads are all the same. Now, you might be asking yourself what I'm talking about with the lower section of the cylinder head. Essentially, the cylinder head is two pieces. There's a lower portion that contains all the ports. This is where your intake manifold and your exhaust manifold bolt up to. It's also where the valves and valve springs are located in your cylinder head. On top of that section is the upper portion of the cylinder head. That section, at least here in North America, contains an exhaust camshaft and a MultiAir brick. These things are so incredibly similar that you can actually take the TJet upper and put it onto the MultiAir engine. Now, you might be asking yourself, why would you want to do that? That sounds like a silly idea. TJets are dual overhead cam. So what I'm talking about doing is essentially taking the single overhead cam / MultiAir setup off of the existing car and instead putting on the dual overhead cam TJet upper. Now, this sounds a bit more complicated than it actually is. And I used to think it was a complicated thing, but then I started researching it, and yeah. Physically, this is a really simple swap. The only difficulty we're going to run into is in tuning. Now, Johnny thinks he can tune it without having to swap ECUs, and we're gonna give that a shot. If we have to swap out to the Bosch ECU, we'll do it. Or if we have to go to a standalone, we'll do it. There's actually a switch inside of the ECU that's physically there for turning off MultiAir. Now, when it comes to connecting up this cylinder head, we'll show you more as we're doing the job, but there really isn't that much different. So they use the same cam sensors, they use the same cam gear. In fact, the timing belt's the same, the tensioner system's the same, all of it's the same. Well, it's probably easier if I just show you. This is a TJet upper. Now, it looks like a valve cover, but when you flip it over, you'll see that it's an enclosed unit. So it only has a singular cam gear. Hopefully you guys can see that, but it makes it look like a single overhead cam upper half. But when you look inside, you can see two camshafts. Let's see if I can hold this up in a, okay, there we go. So I can actually turn this camshaft I don't know if you guys can see that, but the lobes will all spin on both sides. God, that's cool. This is the thing that MultiAir people have been postulating can be put into their cars for the last 5 years. So that's what we're gonna do. Now, I'm only waiting for one last piece, which would be the gasket for the bottom. The MultiAir one actually might be the same, but at this point I've already ordered it, so I'm gonna wait for the new gasket, and then this can all go in. This really wasn't that difficult to get sorted. Good lord, I thought this was going to take a lot more parts, but it's really not a big parts list. That's the top cylinder head off of an Abarth 500 from Europe. If you ever go looking for this part on your own, it's usually referred to as the rocker cover. Anyhow, bolting it up is pretty basic. So all I had to order was, I found myself a very complete upper head. It has the sensor, cam gear, and the cam cover already on it. The other thing I had to suss was bolts. So there's a series of bolts you'll need. They're just small Allen head bolts. I wasn't sure exactly what they looked like, so I had the official ones ordered from Abarth in Europe. Thank you, Mr. Nick Bailey, for getting these for me. It also comes with a series of little plugs. These plug the bolt holes when you're done. But that is nothing more than a bag of bolts. The other thing that I really needed in order to be able to do this was the kit to time the engine. Timing the TJet is a bit different than timing a MultiAir. Timing the bottom section of the engine, the tool to hold everything in place, that part's identical, but doing the upper is a bit different. This is the toolkit for timing a TJet. As you can see, it has the same crank locking tool. It also has the same piece for locking the tensioner in place. These two rods, I'm not really sure what they do yet. I know that you drop these down and rest them on top of the pistons, but I'm not really sure beyond that. These two pieces go into the rocker cover and lock the camshafts in place. But that's it, it's pretty basic. This tool was, I think, about $200 shipped Canadian. I also ordered a new timing belt just to be safe. We know that my engine's been timed a million times, but aside from that, the only thing we're waiting for is literally just that one gasket. That'll be here next week, and then Johnny and I can dive in and finally get this thing on top of the 124 instead. After I know it's working, I'll order a couple different camshafts so we can just get as much as possible out of this engine before we are completely done with this thing and move on to the QV swap. I just hope it works. I just want to be able to drive my car and enjoy it. Actually, one thing I'm super curious about is being able to hear an actual TJet engine going, because when this is all done, it will be a TJet. It will sound like a TJet, it'll behave like a TJet. That's a curiosity. One of the really cool benefits of doing this, at the side of the engine on the 500 or at the back of the engine on the 124, there's this big silver thing attached to the back of the head. It's a vacuum pump. Getting rid of that should be fantastic. That should make low throttle operation of this car a million times better. Any opportunity to eliminate any of that ridiculous nest of vacuum lines under the hood is a good thing. That's it. If none of this stuff works over the next 2-3 months, I'm just done with the MultiAir engine and we're gonna get on with the QV swap. This was supposed to be a temporary fun thing while trying to figure out some of the ancillary, really small ins and outs of the QV swap. If you like what we're doing, don't forget to hit that like button, smash it if you so desire, and don't forget to subscribe. It's what your mom would want you to do. I'll wait. It's right down there. You can do it. Now, I said all things cars related to Pistons and Petrol. I'm a bad man. I buy stupid things. So I bought another Mercedes. This one's a 1999 E430. They're known as the W210 platform. These things are the middle of the range class for Mercedes. Now this is obviously an older one. This is a 20-year-old car. But the main reason I bought it is what's under the hood. If you're not familiar with Mercedes, this thing has the M113 engine in it. What that is a 5.3 liter V8. Makes 275 horsepower, about the same torque-ish. And they run about a 14.7 second quarter mile bone stock. As you've seen, I'm developing a thing for old Mercedes. I do apologize in advance, but I have a plan. And this is gonna be a low budget, low ball plan. We're gonna turn this thing into a sleeper on a budget. So throw me any ideas you folks have. Off the docket at the very start, we're gonna get some weight out of this thing. But I'm not starting any other cars until the 124's built engine is in place. So in the meantime, let me know what you think we should do with this thing. I'm thinking lightweight, maybe tune the thing and add a little bit more horsepower. I think it can do a lot better than a 14.7. This is such a grandpa car. That's the perfect sleeper. All right, folks, thanks for watching. I will see you folks in about 2 weeks with the 124 video. After we've got that thing working and actually making at least a few hundred horsepower, we'll start working on grandpa. Is it bad that I like grandpa? Yeah!